This video is sponsored by Sweetwater. Hi there, Perfecto Castro here and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. And in this video, we are going to go on a tonal sound trip from Vai to Mars. Let's go. So I recently featured this amp right here on my channel, the new Friedman Jose Arredondo tribute amp. In that video, I went to Dave Friedman's shop. I got to pick his brain and, learn about the nuts and bolts of this thing. And in that video, Dave said that he put all the Arredondo mods that he encountered into this one amp. So I figured the best way to showcase this amp is to check out the tones from two of the most celebrated figures associated with Jose Arredondo modded amps. And in case you haven't guessed it yet, for the first half, we're going to check out the tones of my, one of my top guitar heroes, Steve Vai. Steve used Jose modded Marshalls during his time with David Lee Roth. For Eat 'Em and Smile, he borrowed a couple of Jose modded Marshalls from Steve Stevens. And for Skyscraper and the succeeding tour, he used his own Jose modded Marshalls. So before we get into it, I'm gonna play some of my favorite DLR era Vai riffs on my 1990 Ibanez Gem 77 FP into the Friedman Arredondo amp, which I dialed to the Skyscraper era tone. And to make things even more fun, if you're familiar with that record, write down the songs these riffs came from in the comments section. Enjoy. Okay, so in dialing the Steve Vai tone on the Friedman Arredondo amp, an essential resource was Pete Thorne's Vai Arredondo amp video. Somewhere in that video is a close-up of Vai's amp where I saw the markings of Steve's settings. So I managed to grab that. Let's dial it in. Okay, so first up, gain is at 6, volume 2 is at 6, and then volume 1, the bright channel, is all the way up. Now on the Jose, we have to engage the drive switch. So from plexi, switch it to drive. Then next on the settings, treble is at 10, middle is at around 4, or a little before 4. Bass is at 6. Now Dave mentioned something about the presence styles where he found one version of the presence in the Mick Mars amp but not on the Vai amp. So I'm going to assume that we are going to be using the vintage presence setting. And that presence is also at 10. Now on paper, this amp setting seems to be impossibly bright, and you're not wrong. And this is where the magic of the Arredondo mods come in. So according to the Pete Thorne video, Vai used the pre-EQ master volume. So the master volume of the amp is positioned before the tone stack. So let's do that right now. So you hear a drop in volume, but also an increase in low end girth. So let me turn that up. Now the final piece of the puzzle is actually the cabinet. I always assumed that Steve used some sort of greenback loaded 4x12s, which is what is on the universal OX amp top box right now. But after some more digging, he actually used GH30 loaded 4x12s. GH30 being the precursor of the modern V30. And thankfully, there is a GH30 loaded 4x12 cab model on the Universal Audio aux. And here's how that sounds. Okay, now let me talk about the Universal Audio aux for a little bit. So the Universal Audio aux is pretty much an all-in-one guitar amp recording solution. It is all at once a reactive load box. That way you can run your tube amps up to 100 watts safely, even silently if you want to. The reactive load part makes the tube amp sound and feel really good because the amp thinks that it's, interacting with an actual speaker and not a load box. And the aux itself does not just contain virtual cabinets, but actually virtual guitar cabinets in a virtual recording studio room with a virtual recording console and microphones. So with the aux amp top box, you can already sculpt your tube amp into, mix-ready guitar tones. In fact, here's a quick jam clip. The guitar tones did not receive any further processing from Luna, my DAW. The tone you'll hear is the Friedman Arredondo amp into the Universal Audio aux with the virtual cab mic with virtual amps and processed with some virtual console EQ, compression, delay, and plate reverb. Okay, let's talk quickly about updating the firmware on the UA aux amp top box. Now, this particular unit is fresh out of the box. It is brand new. And I just checked, these things still ship out with the old firmware, version 1.1, even though firmware 1.2 has been out for quite some time now. And a lot of other videos here on YouTube just gloss over the whole update process. However, I had issues. As per the instructions on the UA website, we need a USB flash drive, which I used a bunch of them right here. They only mentioned that it should be 1 gigabytes or more. Most of these are 16 to 32 to 64 gigabytes, and I will tell you right now, none of these worked. And I found an old post on a forum somewhere that only 1 gigabyte flash drives worked. Yeah. So I got this from Amazon. I labeled it with firmware UA aux. That way, if there are future firmware updates, I will use this exact drive. So I will put a link to this in the video description if you're in need of one. Now, the next thing we need to do is to turn to the back. I'm going to plug the flash drive into one of these USB ports right here. And then I'm going to power on the aux, holding down this reset button right here. Some pictures have a reset marking. Mine doesn't. So if you're wondering, that is that small button right there. Okay, so hold that down, press power up, and then it will cycle. So let's do that right now. Okay, here we go. Reset button, power on, and you will see this light flashing. Make sure that it flashes green. You can let go of the reset button once you have that. If it starts flashing red, either quickly or slowly, that means it's not reading the USB thumb drive. Yeah, so that happens to you, try another USB flash drive. And then it will do its thing for a couple of minutes. And I'm just gonna patiently sit here until it restarts. That way we capture it on camera. But you don't have to sit with me. Time-lapse mode. Okay, there's the restart. Wait for that click. Okay, settings. And now we are at version 1.2. That's the update process. I hope this helps you guys out. By the way, you don't have to keep the USB flash drive on there. Once it's finished updating, you can take it out and, keep it in a nice, safe place. Big thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and for being such a great friend and supporter of my channel. As always, I will have Sweetwater affiliate links in the video description to most of the stuff that I use in this video. From the Universal Audio OX Amp top box to this sweet Kramer 84 electric guitar. Now, my Ibanez Gem 77 FP is an actual vintage piece, but I will link to some suitable alternatives on the Sweetwater website. Now, from the harmonically rich liquid Vai tone, we go to the raw heaviness of Dr. Feelgood. I still consider that record as my benchmark for heavy guitar tones. And it also uses a Jose modded Marshall. Now, to dial the Mars tone on the Friedman Jose Tribute amp, we also have Pete Thorne to thank for our bass settings. Okay, so we'll keep gain at 6, and then volume 2, the thicker channel, will be bumped up to 8. And then volume 1, the brighter channel, will be turned down to around 7. Now for the tone stack, we're gonna start by turning down the treble from 10 to 5, and then bumping up the mids from 3 to 5 as well. And then the bass will be turned up to 7. And then the presence will stay on vintage presence. We'll turn that down to 3. And so far, this is how that sounds. Now, right now, it sounds overly bassy, but we have one more setting to tweak, and that is the gain style. So where the Vai tone uses the pre-tone stack master volume, we are going to switch it to post-tone stack or post-EQ master volume. And that instantly opens the tone up. The final piece of the puzzle is the virtual guitar cabinet. And the aux makes it very easy since it comes with a Dr. Feelgood preset. Let me dial that in. And now we have... Now the heaviness and the tone are there, but playing the Jose with these settings is an entirely different thing. It actually feels like it's not enough gain. So I actually had to go back and listen to the recording, and just judging from the opening of Kickstart My Heart, this gain level is pretty accurate. So you actually have to put some work in and hit the guitar just right to get that, mean tone. Of course, having the right guitar is also essential. At the time of this video, Eddie Van Halen's 1982 striped Kramer is being put up for auction. And in reading up in its history, that guitar also ended up in Mick Mars' hands, and he used it as one of the guitars in rotation for the Dr. Feelgood recordings. Yeah, so this Kramer 84 tuned down to D standard gets you in the right ballpark. And thanks to the aux, this Jose tone settings is ready to drop into the context of this track. Okay, there you have it. I had a lot of fun putting the new Friedman Jose Arredondo tribute amp through its paces, from Vai to Mars. And I was able to make that tonal sound trip thanks to the Universal Audio OX amp top box. Again, big thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and for keeping my channel afloat by sending work my way. If you're ready for New Gear Day, please drop by the video description and use my Sweetwater affiliate links to go gear shopping. Thank you so much for your extra support. If you dug this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and don't forget to ring that bell. And let me know what you think of this setup right here. Did I get close to the tones I was after? Let me know in the comments. Here's a couple of videos YouTube recommends, so click to watch, then go grab your guitar and play something. You all know the drill. Practice makes perfecto. Cheers, guys.